How quickly do you give up? How hard does it have to get for you to say, I'm done? Or will you do anything at any cost once your mind is made up? Well, for some people, it's easy to give up. It's like a everyday thing. But for other people, it's not that it's easy, it's just that it's hard to even start. Well, today I'm really excited because, many of us, uh, we look at maybe something small in our life and focus on it as if it were a hurdle or an obstacle. But when somebody is born with a hurdle and an obstacle, to be able to see it as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to move in and move forward, that's a blessing. And so today we have the pleasure, we have you have the pleasure of getting to know, and we have the pleasure of getting to know Matthew Kenslow. So Matthew, this is his second book. This is called Unstoppable. And the subtitle is How One Person with Autism is Never Giving Up on his lifelong dreams to become a teacher and a worldwide influencer. And I think he's on his way for both. And so we have a lot to learn today with Matthew, and I'm really excited to introduce him to you.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lillian McDermott, and I am the certified life coach and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show Classroom. If this is the first time that you come into the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, as you know, when I first heard about Matthew Kenslow, I had to research him and make sure he was who he says he is. And once we reached out to him, we were thrilled that he said he would join us. Many of us, like I said earlier, we look at our obstacles. But as you know, here in the classroom, we are part of the solution. I am the solution. The I am in us help us create what it is that we want. And how wonderful that we get to highlight someone who's living this truth as well. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Matthew Kenslow is here to do just that. Welcome to the classroom, Matthew.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure for you to be here as well. You have done a lot, and in your short period of time, you what, 28 now?
Yeah.
Yes, and you've accomplished a lot. But share a little bit about your background and how you were told, or share a little bit about autism and what awareness you want us to know today.
I was diagnosed with a speech delay when I was 3 years old. And then because of that, I took the preschool intervention program when I was 4. I remember it quite well. I've have tons of memories that I still recollect. And a few years after that, I was in special day classes from kindergarten to second grade. But in between, I would go to a regular class, and the school was seeing how I would handle that. And then I was mainstreamed in third grade. But back in around first grade is when I got the official diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. And I wasn't formally told about it till much later, though.
Okay. So when you say you weren't told about it, so did you know that there was something, you went to these special classes with special people? And when I say that, I'm saying, we're all special. We're all special in many ways. Did you feel different?
Yeah, in kindergarten is when I started to be teased for having autism. Like a couple of my classmates would say, "Go away, you're not a friend," and such. And I knew that I had a speech impediment back then, a lot more than I do now. And so I kind of figured something, but it was more like fourth grade, fifth grade when I first heard what autism was, and I started to think maybe I have it, maybe. And then later on in my life, I was talking to my mom about it, asking her, do I have anything? And she said, yes, you have this diagnosis, and this is what it's about. And that's when my life started to make sense at that point.
Interesting. Until then, it didn't?
Well, it's like I kind of had a feeling, but it wasn't confirmed.
Got it. Got it. Why did your mom choose to keep this information from you? Did she feel that it would hold you back, or that this could not hold you back?
I don't think she really wanted to keep it from me, so I'm not exactly positive why, but she, I guess, thought maybe a little later in my life.
Yeah, a little later in your life. So with that, help us understand, because you were diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, right? And
Yeah.
now it's considered part of the autism spectrum. So what were some of the behaviors that would make a kindergarten say you have autism? Especially if you weren't told about it until you were in third grade.
Again, one of the things is like I had that speech delay, but also just social shyness. I
Okay.
was very shy, had my experiences of being teased. And then another disadvantage of autism is like a lack of concentration, lack of shutting my mind off when it should. So when I'm trying to do a task like do homework or go to sleep at night or take a test, my mind thinks of so many different things that it takes me longer for me to do those things.
Got it. And you were aware of that. Was it
Yeah.
that you were comparing yourself to other children, or did the teacher say you need to speed up, you need to do this? Because sometimes we're unaware of things like that until somebody points it out on us. How
Yeah,
did you
well,
become aware?
I kind of noticed that I was one of the last people to complete a test, and that lasted till like high school. And the teachers weren't really making a big deal out of it,
Okay.
but there's a couple of times like one teacher, a good teacher of mine, was asking how much do you have left to do, and I didn't want to tell him how much, so I said I tend to skip around on the test, and
Hmm.
he was like, "Oh my gosh," and I was the last person. So.
And so you were aware. You were aware because you were feeling the room. How much of that was maybe you being sensitive to um, comparing yourself to other children?
I may have had that sensitivity early on because when I'm taking a test, when I start to see other students like stand up and silently turn in their test, go back to read a book, I'm like, okay, if other people are starting to finish, and then a lot more people are starting to finish, um, and I'm still halfway through, I started to feel like a little panicked, but I learned to realize my limitations that I have to like I had to accept that sometimes it just takes longer for me to complete these things.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but at least you're completing them. Our son had us I think it's called ES. It's an educational extension of and so whenever there was a timed test, he would take it somewhere else. Because that seeing the children, I mean, it made me nervous when I was a kid. So that's a normal feeling at any age, you know, for everybody. It's normal for everybody to feel that way. Did they kind of change that for you? Did they allow you to take tests in a separate area? Did they develop like a special way for you to test so that you feel comfortable in taking tests?
Yes, especially in high school, starting, I believe, in junior high as well. But I had RSP, which stands for Resource Specialist Program.
Hmm.
A lot of students would go to that as a resource and an
Hmm.
extra time to take tests. And then when
Uh-huh.
I got to OCC, college, and university, they also provided those options too.
Very good. But my son had the same. He had a person who could take notes for him too. And so, but he never took advantage of it. Did you find yourself that when you had these exceptions made for you, that it it's like it was great, but at the same time it singled you out?
Well, I I'm okay with like taking my own notes and all that. I just more like took advantage of the extra time. Like in
Yeah.
college, I had a time and a half.
That's nice. That's nice. Well, good for you that you took advantage of what was offered to you. Some people don't even try to have those because it takes time. You have to have a parent that's persistent. So during that time, how was your mom and tell us about your home life. How was that like?
I had a very supportive home life. I was raised in a Christian home,
Mhm.
and my mom was one of the is one of the biggest advocates and helped raise me a lot, and also gave me life skills as I was growing up, from like cooking to driving to balancing a checkbook. So
Mhm.
she was very supportive and also proud of my accomplishments.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So share a little bit about autism and what you would like for us to know now, because now this is a perspective of you going through school before you've graduated college. What would have wanted for teachers and parents and other students to have known about you?
Well, I'm thankful that like pretty much all my teachers knew, and most of my and accepted me, as well as most of my friends, most of the classmates too. But through autism, like it has its ups and its downs. And I've said some of the negativity of it before, and then there's the positivity that I find. Like for instance, I have like a memory for numbers and dates. Like, so I memorized like the presidents and their dates, like birthdays and all that, and then memorizing other things. So, and then I think with the numbers, math came easy to me
Mhm.
early on, science not really until later. So, I pursued that and I ended up getting like a math credential and everything.
Very good, very good. Now, at what point did you decide that you wanted to use the diagnosis of autism and Asperger's to help others, not just yourself?
I would say it was like late high school to early college days around there. In high school, started to be invited to go to places to juggle and speak, and it was specifically for special education, autism. And that's when I started to advocate for like the first time, like this is who I am and how we're not really different than everybody else. It's just
Right.
how our minds work. And um, and at the same time, I was also asked to do that with juggling. And somewhere later in my early college years, I started to make an analogy with juggling, like if things drop in life, never give up, pick them back up, keep going. You'll do more amazing things. And that's kind of what started it.
So tell us about juggling. How did you get involved with that?
In fifth grade, my aunt, who loves planes, went to an air show and brought back souvenirs. One of them was like a little like squeeze ball for stress, and
Mhm.
I started to toss it up and down and everything. And then from one, I went to two, and then three, and I had my first talent show in sixth grade.
And how did you do?
Excellent. Well, my first juggling talent show, that is.
Yeah. And because you are also an accomplished pianist and there's so many different things. When I read up on you, I didn't see autism. I saw somebody who was persistent and determined. So how, you don't want autism to define a person, but autism has defined what you do and how you help others. So how have you balanced, you know, um, with autism and wanting to help others and break out of that mold? How have you created that balance for you?
Well, one thing that I had to learn is, come to terms with any limitations and get better from there.
Yeah.
And to learn to go through things and not go around things, but to go through things. And sometimes that takes, you have to take advantage of the help, the resources that are there, as well as not bottling things up inside, but like expressing what's in your mind. And so just go to I went to my teachers or the disabled services at the college and university and such.
And they were able to support and help you. And did you at one point at any time feel that this was too hard for you?
I didn't feel it was impossibly hard, and they helped me out so much.
Very good. Very good. So what would you want people to know about autism? So let's talk about some of the myths of autism and to help us all understand. And what is your opinion of the expansion of neurodiversity right now? It used to be there was Asperger's, ADHD, there was different cognitive, issues that had their own path, so to speak, but then they've merged everything together. So what is your perspective on that? Did that change anything for you?
Well, I used to hear about like the linear spectrum, like mild to severe, and then a couple of years ago, I saw more of a circular spectrum to describe neurodiversity, autism, and such, which I am a favor to that because there's so many different components to our personality, to our character. Some of us have a little bit more than other characteristics at any one time. As far as the myths go, I do dispel a lot of myths. Like one of them is like people with autism like can't feel emotions, and I, for one, can not just sympathize but empathize, meaning I could feel the hurt that people go through, but it's always hard for me to express it on the outside. Like, what do I say, and how do I what how should my countenance look? Another one is that maybe we hate socializing, but I say we're not necessarily antisocial, but I, for one, I long to spend time with my friends. I was just nervous. And I know I can't speak for every single person. Like once you meet one person with autism, you haven't met everyone with autism, you just met
Mhm,
that one.
mhm,
Another one is like people with autism may lack intelligence. That's what
mhm.
some people say. And it's like, well, I have two science degrees and full math credentials so far, and I'm not stopping anytime soon because of autism or something like that. And another one says we ha don't have a sense of humor. But I would say in fifth grade, I got the most sense of humor in class certificate, June 23rd, 2006. So
What was your favorite way to make people laugh? Because laughter is currency. It was currency in our home.
yeah, well, I would just, find jokes, either make jokes or repeat jokes that I've heard in the past.
And you pulled it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some people are joke tellers, but they don't know how to finish. Like I used to be a really great joke teller. Now I can't remember a joke to save my life. Now I'm a storyteller. Do you find yourself that you learn the story and that makes you a better joke teller, or how do you go about it?
I'm not sure. It may be a little bit of both, though, like because I like telling stories as well.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about the book, Unstoppable. What was because this is your second book. The first one was about juggling and the art of juggling, and the name of the book, I forget the name of the book, is The Juggling the Issues Living with Asperger's Syndrome. So you wrote that book first, and then you wrote this one second. What is your goal in writing these books? What is your heart want to bring out?
My goal is just spreading awareness, acceptance, and appreciation of autism and then disabilities in general. So this is the first book, Juggling the Issues,
Mhm.
and it talks about the ups and downs of living with autism, as well as some of the organizations that helped me out in life and the opportunities I had. And my second book is specifically my journey through student teaching, how I solidified my goal to become a teacher, my passion, and then my adventures in substitute teaching. And my hope is that it would encourage aspiring teachers or any profession, disability or not.
Absolutely. And so what makes you a better teacher versus someone who doesn't have an autism diagnosis?
Let's see, I went into it knowing that I have like some limitations with autism, but I'm a person that's I guess ambitious or determined, perseverant. to fulfill my dream. I mean, it's my joy to be in front of a classroom and teach, especially teaching math. And I thought me being up there may be an encouragement to a lot of students. Also wanted to show that, I'm a person with autism and I'm not giving up. And a couple of, there's been times when students have found out that I had autism and they expressed interest in wanting to know more. So they would ask me questions. And a couple of times, like when I'm subbing, there are students who thought it was brave of me for, doing what I'm doing, as well as getting out in the world to advocate for autism. And there's one special time last December when a parent recognized me at a Target, and she said that you subbed for my daughter in 6th grade, and she has autism too, but because you were there, now she believes that she could do anything,
It's wonderful.
that she sets her heart to.
That's wonderful. And that's what I get from you. And, and I wish that people that didn't have a diagnosis of autism would also hang on to, because this isn't just an autism message. This is a message for all of us. If you really think about it, taking ownership for your life, regardless of whatever disability. I love that message that you're bringing into the world. And so with that, how did you, you said your mom taught you these life skills. How do you keep things organized? I mean, I've learned through my own life that if I'm not organized, things just fall through the cracks. I told you off the air that I had just created an event. I mean, we just finished a major event, and it requires really to be focused and hands-on, and you have to have a schedule. Do you find yourself needing that more because of autism, or do you need it because you're just a person?
Well, I find that I really need to like put things in a schedule. So I write like to-do lists
Mhm.
and such, which really helps. I just have to find the time to make the to-do list.
Yeah.
And once I get everything from my brain and my tasks onto paper, it really alleviates some stress.
Exactly. So those are great tips. So let's continue with these tips, because these tips are great for all of us. All of us. And that is one thing. I have a list that when I need to be the most focused, those lists must be done. And it is true. I can sleep so much better knowing that it's out of my head, it's on the paper, and I don't need to remember. So because it's on the paper. So share other tips that you do to help you, not only as a good teacher, good because you have your own podcast and you're an influencer. So what does your day look like? How does Matthew Kenslow manage his day?
Well, I do have those like to-do lists and to stay organized, scheduling, as far as like the internet goes, or like uploading on like social media and such. I have folders with the dates on them. So like every morning I just open it and say I have these things already made in advance, and I'll just upload it that day. Sometimes I schedule upload. Other times, like outside of social media, I'm a substitute teacher usually during the weeks, or I'm doing an assembly at a school. Like yesterday, I was doing an assembly for at an elementary school, and I guess it just have a planner to stay organized, and that also really helps. I'm making use of my planner, writing down everything like the time, and that is kind of like making a to-do list. It really alleviates stress, and I know what's coming up and all that. So to calendarize things. And also another tip is like make sure you know those people who support you, your family, your teachers, if, church family, or just out in the community. And if you need something, like if you can't do it all, like just know that there's people that you could trust and go to them.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So with these tips, did you learn these tips because someone taught you these tips, or these tips have you learned through trial and error?
I would say both. Because like the to-do list, I mean, I've heard of to-do lists all my life, but once I actually start implementing them, I find they help.
Yeah, that's true. I tell you what, when I first married my husband 30 years ago, he used to write lists, and his lists for lists, and he was so very organized. And I would go off the day and I had everything in my mind, everything that I needed to do, and he would say, "How is it that you can do these things without a list?" And it was just something I could do. Now I need to put it in my calendar. If I don't put it in my calendar, it's like gone. So this is a wonderful tip that you're bringing to everybody, not just children with autism or adults with autism. But what would you like us to know about people with autism? I know that you have different playlists. If you go to, but by the way, if you guys go to Matthew Kinslow's website, and I'll give that to you in a little bit, you can find his Instagram account and his Facebook and YouTube. And I noticed your Facebook is different because you're focused on your piano there. When did you start playing the piano?
Third grade.
Third
So
grade.
after school program precisely 20 years ago.
So between juggling and playing the piano, what are other things that you love to do?
Well, sometimes I do math problems for fun throughout and just to um, keep up to practice with math.
Yeah. Yeah, and you became an Eagle Scout, right? Did I read that correctly? That there's an equivalent of Eagle Scout too. So Ranger,
Yeah, Royal Rangers.
Royal
It's like
Rangers.
a faith-based mentoring program that does that's merit driven too,
Mhm.
and it's from the Assemblies of God denomination, and their high medal is called the Gold Medal of Achievement.
Very good. Very good. And I can't remember, you got the Eagle Scout, right? You got your Eagle Scout badge
Yeah,
and
it's
the
called the
other,
Gold Medal.
the gold medal. Yes,
Yeah.
very good. Very good. Congratulations on that. And so with that in mind, Matthew, what would you want us to know about you, about people with autism? Because you said not every person with autism is the same, but are there certain traits that we can kind of link from one to the next to the next?
I'd say the some of the common traits are especially like the social shyness, like being shy socially, but also like needing to stay organized.
Mhm,
And I mean, I remember in third grade, I during reading time, I wouldn't read. I would alphabetize the books in the library
mhm,
and such. So I guess like an OCD type characteristic.
mhm.
But again, some of us, probably not all of us, but some of us may have like a little speech delay or more of impediment, like I did.
Mhm. Anything else?
Well, I'm sure there's more, but they're escaping me for the at the moment.
No. Well, I remember one of the awareness that you created for me was you had talked about the myths that there's that you people with autism do not have emotions. That there's also socializing, that they're antisocial, which isn't true. Does it bother you differently when something happens to you? Or can you share about social awareness with somebody that, I mean, maybe you can share on your own about what happens with you that might be common with other people that have autism.
What happened to me, like socially, is like I've made a lot of friends, but again, it was hard for me to put my foot forward and ask. I usually waited for them to come to me and start the conversation.
Mhm,
I kind of bit described it like an invisible block of nervousness magnetically repelling me
mhm.
from me and another person. So in
Interesting.
high school, I would just find myself backed by the wall and just seeing all my friends and all my acquaintances, all my peers, just talking with each other, and I'm like, how do you do that? And such, like where you could just enter a conversation. So that's one part, and then other parts, like especially like throughout my college days, I've still had share of being teased in the neighborhood, and just like teased for having autism, or I guess just standing out awkwardly, I guess. So there have been times walking down the street or the park or at a store where even walking past people, I'm not exactly sure what to always do. Like, do I look at them? Do I say like a little hi? Which happens. I say hi, and other times I just socially I'm a little bit nervous. And there have been some times where I've where people have laughed or yelled or cussed at me or maybe like gave me like strange I don't know, intonations with their voices and such. So I that kind of tells me like there's more awareness and acceptance that needs to be spread.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody doing that, but it does happen. There are very cool people in this world. But if I were to see you in the street, Matthew, unless I knew who you were, I wouldn't know that you have autism. So how do we know, how do we recognize that in somebody else? Or should that be something that does not need to be recognized and we just need to treat people with respect, period?
I do believe everyone should be treated with respect,
Mhm.
and if people require accommodations,
Mhm.
then it shouldn't be withheld from them. Like
Sure.
they should still have that equal chance to succeed.
Mhm. And so what are some of the tips that you have been able to override some of the social anxiety? Because I remember being painfully shy when I was a little girl. I mean, painfully shy. And I believe that being painfully shy now, moving forward, all these years, I believe painfully shy is a sign of being someone who is empathic, for example. But not everybody who is painfully shy is going to be empathic. But at least for me, I've noticed a similarity that people that are shy are very empathic. So could that have been part of you being, feeling all the emotions that were coming from out there, just didn't know how to discern it?
Yeah, that or process. I would say in 11th grade was when I was sitting next to a friend that I had since third grade, and I just unloaded everything to him, like saying, I'm just fearful if I'm in front of even my friends, if am I like being intrusive in any way? And he said, no, don't think that at all. And he kind of helped me out and um, hung out with me a couple of times, like at the church across the street, and showed me a part on campus where there's a lot of students, a lot of our mutual friends that hang out. So for the next like year and a few months, I was at that part during like, especially during nutrition. And still, I would find myself nervous to go up to people. And at that point, I would stand there and a lot of my friends would come to me and ask like, how was the day, the weekend, the test, the class and such. So I would also say like over time, I just told myself to just don't be nervous and go for it.
Mhm.
And there have been times, especially within the past 10 years, where I feel a bit more confident
Mhm.
in going up to people, whether they're friends or my professors.
And that, but you see, this is, I guess what I want to separate is Matthew the man from Matthew the autistic man, from Matthew, because many of the emotions that you have, I've had. I have not received a autism diagnosis. I probably would receive an ADHD diagnosis, but I was able to work with all these things and create my own style. Um, but do you ever feel like you're being labeled by a diagnosis versus this is Matthew, I just need to be more relaxed or maybe go more towards people? Do you feel that the diagnosis has kind of put some parameters on you?
No, not necessarily. I
Okay,
mean, I would say, disability or not, I believe anyone could do whatever they set to their heart and mind to do. And
exactly.
to not allow the label to define them, to stop them, or slow them in any way, but just come to terms with like the limitations, take advantage of the accommodations provided to you and
Mhm.
and do the best you can.
Well, and I see that in you, and I honor that. I think that it's wonderful. And what I'm saying is, with or without the diagnosis, you are overcoming a lot of the obstacles and hurdles that people with the same diagnosis feel that it's okay not to try. How do you talk to and how do you reach to someone who perhaps maybe needs a Matthew Kenslow to say, hey, listen, I go through this too, or a Lillian McDermott saying, I'm shy too, and it's sometimes hard for me to go to people, that it's not about autism, it is just about that sometimes these things are difficult.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to diminish autism by all means. I'm saying that if you say I have autism and that's why you're shy or whatever, uh, what about me who hasn't been diagnosed? We have so much in common, Matthew.
yeah, and one of the things that I do say is like if you see me up here doing these things, like if I'm on stage talking about autism and juggling or whatever, it's like if I could do all the things I could accomplish, so can you plus more.
Yes, exactly. So how do you take that limitation, that limiting belief, which as a certified life coach, I work with people like that all the time. You know, I've tried to help them to rewrite their story, so how do you reach out to someone who you know has autism, or maybe, I mean, I'm listening to you right now, and I'm getting a lot of what you're saying. I'm understanding that, you know, that we all have limitations and we all have these, um, but when somebody has that diagnosis, I wonder if that would cause them to think that they can't get over the limitation. How do you talk to somebody? I know that you say that, but how do you get them to actually make that step, take that step?
Well, I would just say like through encouragement, I would encourage them to keep going. I would encourage them um, to like if they're in school, like take advantage of, the accommodations, talk to teachers and your parents, they're there for you, but
Mhm.
just believe in yourself. Just believe that you could do it if you persevere, if you choose to. And again, not like I would say don't allow like the label
Yeah,
to
yeah.
stop you. Like don't like the label of autism or whatever disability to like stop you. That doesn't mean that this your lost cause. I believe you could achieve it if you set your heart and mind to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's where I'm finding this connection with you, that if somebody were to listen to this and say, oh, well, he's autistic. No, I don't see you as autistic. I see you as a human being, and that has, you know, everybody has these struggles. But I understand, I did a class with Summer Perkins, and she says that the wiring is different. And she also said that in the past, children with neurodiversity, they were told to suppress these emotions, that they suppress, you know, how if somebody is looking at you a certain way, to kind of like suppress it and to behave a certain way. Did you have to deal with any of that? Or were you lucky enough that you were told you can do all things? Because that's what God tells us. We can do all things with him.
Yeah, I grew up with the latter, like Philippians 4:13 and also Matthew 19:26
Hmm.
and such. So I believed in like that we shouldn't suppress what we're given, the talents that we're given to multiply, that we're entrusted with to multiply. So a lot of people call that masking if we suppress it and pretend to be someone that we're not. And I'm kind of a bit against that part. I
Hmm.
think that we should express just who we are, who we were created to be.
So help us understand masking, because that's a different name that I've heard. And I'm sure that that is something that we need to learn as well. So let's talk about masking when it comes to autism. When we were talking about that in the classroom that we did together, she was saying that different ways to help a child kind of deal with like a different situation, like going to a restaurant, and sounds and noises, or a look or anything. What is your advice to parents when it comes to that?
Well, to define masking, how I learned it is like masking is like where it's like another term is like being a chameleon. It's like where you
Blended.
yeah
Yeah.
blend in, you try to blend in and not acknowledge that you have a disability, like try to pretend that you understand everything, that you're normal in society. And that's the definition that I heard. And I found myself doing that myself. And I'm personally like, I don't think people got to feel that they have to mask
Mhm.
and like suppress like who you truly are inside.
Yeah. Well, you've done a really great job at being a strong leader. Even today, as we are recording, you got up extra early so that you can be available for your career to teach, and if you get called or not get called, to be a substitute teacher. That requires integrity. And I believe that that is something that's lacking in the world. And in the conversation that I had with Summer Perkins, we talked about the use of like digital, like gaming and all of that. Um, how much of that when it comes to gaming, because I have an opinion about it. It is not scientific or anything like that. But when I was growing up, we played out there in the neighborhood, and we came back in when it was time for dinner. We were very creative. We were allowed to be creative. When my children were growing up, we had all sorts of kids coming over to the house. They played. Very little TV time, very little gaming time. But I've noticed that now children are like they know how to swipe left and swipe right and find YouTube, and at the age of 1. How much do you think that can cause social anxiety when you're now put in place, later on in life? Do you deal with that with children who are autistic, with having that issue where interactions are harder, but playing games and kind of doing that is easier for them?
I'd say that I've witnessed that throughout my life. Like for me, when I was in elementary school, I had the old school handheld Game Boy Advance,
Yeah.
and then just online games and such that I was determined to like beat every level and
Hmm.
everything, and that took a lot of time. And then there's been times like in middle school and such when I was able to like go to a friend's house. I found that the time was robbed because of them playing games, and it's like I didn't really get to socialize with them because they're fixed on the game and
Yeah.
such. So, and then nowadays, I mean, I see like toddlers like with a tablet and being able to um, do these games or even educational games even.
Hmm.
And then when I see them, like at least one of them whom I know very well, because he's a family member, he he's on the shy side.
Hmm.
But I also see him like playing the games. So
Hmm. But my question to you is, can those games create symptoms that mimic autism? Again,
symptoms like an adverse effect.
yeah, like not being able to socially interact or not be able to engage with your emotions, and that shyness because we don't know how to relate. That was my question to her. And because children today are being raised differently than we were raised. I'm going to be 61, and so I have many, many years ahead of you where I've seen a change, and I'm wondering if some of these children are just not being taught social skills and
I
then
might,
diagnosed. I don't know. It's just a question that I wonder about.
yeah, I guess I would too. But if I were to hypothesize, I would think that games may have that adverse effects. So I mean, I may not be against games, especially
No,
educational games,
correct.
but maybe limited.
Yeah.
Like my Game Boy Advance, it said don't play more than an hour, but that didn't
Yeah.
always stop me. But again, I think it robs time from socializing, thereby learning social cues and how to socialize and how to have fun at the age that you have at that time.
Yeah, because when I did my first show with Summer, that was many years ago. I had just started on the radio, 2012. So I'd been doing radio for about a year, and I asked that question. We talked about how children were supposed to kind of blend in, and you socialize them ahead of time. And so I asked her the question, we went from 1 to 10,000 back then in 2012 to 1 in 36, right? I mean, what are the statistics now? 1 in 36, and and it's a broad spectrum of the autism, and so I wonder how many children are labeled autistic, when really they're perhaps maybe this is a side effect of too much lack of interaction or lack of I guess I'm having a hard time asking this question because it's a hard question to ask, maybe for me, because I don't want to minimize autism, but at the same time, I know that the rates of autism have skyrocketed to the point where, just in 2012, it was 1 in 10,000. And so I'm wondering how many eager to diagnose, and I'm not minimizing it either at all. And I hope you don't, I hope you don't feel that I am, but I'm questioning the side effects of all this gaming and all this internet, where we dive into this world and there's nobody there. Even you have felt that you feel robbed from experiencing a relationship. So, you know, do you ever talk to parents about minimizing or bringing down the amount of time that kids can play these games, or is it like a respite for some parents to just have the child be able to calm down and play these games?
I haven't yet talked to parents about that, probably because they haven't like asked me directly about it. I've seen it with some, I've heard about it with some, like at Royal Rangers, for example.
Mhm.
I'm the commander there, and I hear about the boys playing games when they get home, and then usually at churches, Sunday schools that I volunteer at sometimes, and like in the past they have like computer or games like Xbox like games, and I haven't like no one really approached me, but if they did and asked me, I mean, I could explain like my experience and what I think.
Yeah, because you are so successful, Matthew. And there's got to be a link because you're out in the world, you're engaging, you're making a difference, you're doing things that the typical person that has that diagnosis uh, are told that they can't do. But you've gone above and beyond that, but you've done a lot to get you outside your comfort zone. I don't look at you at all and see someone who's comfortable. I see someone who's out there making a difference and getting outside your comfort zone and doing some of the things that, someone without a diagnosis should be doing anyway. So I just want to compliment you, and I do believe as I was researching you, that question just kept popping into my heart. I wonder if children with autism should be brought up with, get off the gaming, or if they do the gaming, maybe a little bit, but teach them the socializing and the social cues, like the things that you are aware of, that you're making us aware of are things that all children should be aware of. I,
Yeah.
I I'm wondering if you could add this to maybe your next book,
Oh yeah.
because I really do. I have seen children that have never received an autistic diagnosis, but are experiencing some of the side effects that you call that is part of your life that um that I wonder if socializing in a different way, interacting in a different way, and if anybody could create a class like that, it would be you. It would be you. That to teach the parents that maybe these are maybe what do you call that? There's a challenge. Did you ever do the challenge hurt obstacles and hurdles where you jump up, you go down, and you rely on a community. Um, I don't know what they're called, but they're like retreats and challenge. Have you ever done those?
I wanted to do stuff like that, just not often.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wonder if that would be something that you can add to as you elaborate in as you get more and more. When I first started my show, it was a radio show. And 13 years later, almost 14 years later, it's a classroom. And I see you going in that direction. I see you changing the face of autism. And I see you coming up with solutions for that too. It's just something I see in you. I think it's wonderful, Matthew, what you're doing, because you're creating an awareness in all of us that regardless of the diagnosis that's been given to you, you can do all things. And I believe that's just wonderful. And so, by the way, we can do all things, and that is what we talk about here in the classroom, at whenyouneedafriend.com. I want to encourage you to go there. Today, we are going to be doing a virtual 3-hour I Am the Solution, Rewrite Your Story virtual webinar. And so I hope that if you've gotten your tickets, get your tickets today. If you haven't gotten them, we're going to be learning how to rewrite our story, how to see these obstacles. Sometimes we stop even without an obstacle. We create our own obstacles. And so today we'll come together at 6:30 to 9:30. We'll come together as a community, and we're going to learn and grow together. So if you haven't go to whenyouneedafriend.com, get your ticket. And while you are there, please subscribe to the channel, like and follow me on all social media. And then, also share the video, share this with your friend. From 1 to 10,000 in 2012 to 1 in 36, this conversation today is going to affect all of us. All of us, we all know. It's just like talking about cancer as well. It affects all of us. But how can we make a difference? How can we do something different to create a different result? And this is what I love about Matthew. He's doing this today. And I'm encouraging all of you to share this information. Go to his website, go to like his social media as well as mine, and go to my Shop Now bag, check out some of the Lilly approved products that are there to help you become a more natural, better person so that you can shine your light everywhere you go. Support our sponsors the way they're supporting the classroom. And, last but not least, if you would like to become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month or a one-time donation, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure. And as I said, just sharing this video today is helping the classroom grow. Today we have Matthew Kenslow, who caught my eye, is doing great things regardless of his diagnosis of autism. And you can find him at matthew-kinslow-shop.fourthwall.com. It's a long link, but if you are a subscriber of the classroom, if all you have to do is click on his name and it'll take you right to his website. And you'll be able to tell us about your merchandise that you have there, and what do you want to accomplish with your website as well, some of your products.
Yeah, I just want to spread awareness the best I can. And the idea of merch, I mean, I was like wondering if I'm ever going to have merch, what the heck would I do? And so I thought maybe I'd just put some inspirational quotes that I came up with and about, like motivational and such. And so I thought maybe I'll just put that like on t-shirts. And then that website also includes like a bio, like my bio and social media links. Like I'm also on YouTube and Instagram and such. I also talk a bit about on a page my assemblies and speaking engagements that I do and where I've been and such. So I just thought I'd share with those.
It's wonderful. I went on there. I said, hey, he's got some merch. That's really good, Matthew. This is really good. What has been your greatest takeaway from this whole journey? Because again, when I look at you, I see a man, a very powerful, successful young man. I don't see autism. I don't want to see that in anybody. I see how capable you are. And so what do you want people to take away from today's class?
Well, on a personal note or a personal level, I mean, I feel more confident and as I persevere, and what I want people to know and understand is like, if I could do the things that I could do, so can you, plus more. Don't allow the label to stop you in any way or to define you, and make sure to try to take those resources. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are willing to help out.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the book is called Unstoppable. And so where are you? What is your next step for Matthew Kenslow? What is because you are unstoppable. I know that for a fact. So what is your next goal after this? Becoming a teacher, and you're already all these things. What's your next thing?
Well, coming up on May 2nd, I'm getting a master's in education from Vanguard University. After
Awesome.
which I'm planning on applying for like the local community college district, and maybe be a math professor part-time while I sub the other part-time. And within the next few years of doing that, oh, and I also spoke to Vanguard about being a math professor, possibly there part-time, like an adjunct professor. But while I do that and subbing, I want to try to go to as many schools as possible in Orange County, California, to do these volunteer assemblies. I know I have something tomorrow, and I'll be in Irvine Unified doing assemblies on Friday. So it's just wonderful. And in these assemblies, I juggle, do magic. I tell them it's not real magic, but to illustrate points in a science demo. I talk about my story with autism, and help them on how to have inclusion, like how to be inclusive.
That's wonderful. I think that you're gonna do even greater than that. With your master's degree. I mean, I, I'm just so impressed with you, and I am so grateful that you've given us a different glimpse of what autism could look like. But to me, you've given me a glimpse of what exceptional young man can be. And so congratulations on that, and congratulations on your second book. And for those of you who would like to get the book, you can get it at your merch, right? Or you can go get them at Amazon. And I also linked the book. So for those of you who haven't subscribed to the classroom, you get the blog every week, every Sunday at 4:44, because that's the number 4 is very special, which means love. So I send it with lots of love. And so the book Unstoppable, you can just click on it and get it from Amazon. You could also click on Matthew's name, and it'll take you to his website as well. So one final word, what would you like for somebody tuning in today? Just right now, what is your final word for the class today?
I would just say never give up on what you want to do and who you want to be in life. And I'd say at the same time, don't set standards based on other people, but base them upon your own self and what you could handle. It's perfectly okay to look at professionals, be influenced by them, but don't try to be them, be yourself.
I like that. I like that. A long time ago, one of my mentors said to me, right before I was boohooing about something that was done, and he said, "You know what, Lily? I think it may be time for you to quit." And I'm like, as I'm wiping my tears, I'm like, "Well, I'm not gonna quit." And so he said, "Well, what's it gonna take for you to quit?" I said, "I'm never gonna quit." And then he said to me, "Then be who you say you are. Act like it." So I wiped my tears and never focused on the problem anymore. I focused on the solution, and it changed my perspective. Be who you say you are, and you are doing that. So thank you so much, Matthew, for what you're doing and changing the face of diversity and neurodiversity, and creating a new normal, and an uncomfortable normal, uncomfortable feeling, which is great. It's getting out of your comfort zone. That's what I mean. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Matthew Kenslow wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional